Sergio Perez is walking on eggshells. Lately, his standing at Red Bull has been blurry. The Mexican driver dropped out of the championship race early in the season thanks to a series of disappointing qualifying sessions, and with his star teammate Max Verstappen gaining momentum, even when Perez managed to get back into the pole position shootout, the advantage was, and still is, clearly in favor of the Dutchman. Having tallied 96 points since the initial race in Verstappen's impressive 9-race winning streak starting from Miami, Perez finds himself trailing his teammate by a big margin of 139 points. His bosses Helmut Marko and Christian Horner agree that Perez is no longer in contention for the title. But their agreement seems to end there. Horner has strongly insisted that Perez will continue as a Red Bull driver in 2024. On the other hand, Marko sounds like he lost faith in Checo, saying that in Formula 1, nothing is ever set in stone. He thinks that there are always performance-related scenarios to address, and if you ask Ralf Schumacher, it's Helmut Marko's less than friendly approach towards the Mexican driver that's causing his recent drop in performance. Writing for Sky Deutschland after Sunday's race, the 6-time Grand Prix winner said, "Sergio Perez once again made a mistake when he drove into the barriers at the entrance to the pits, and this action also resulted in a penalty that cost him second place in the end. I think his days at Red Bull are numbered. Dr. Helmut Marko is not exactly known for his warm-hearted way of dealing with Perez. I think that Perez as a guy can't deal with that so well. That's how I explain these serious mistakes." Perez looked very grumpy, disappointed, and also absent all weekend. I think that there were already agreements about a separation after the end of the season. Should Perez find himself sacked by Helmut Marko at the end of this season, Red Bull has a few options at their disposal. They could potentially elevate a talent from their junior program, considering candidates such as Yuki Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, or even Liam Lawson, who recently made his debut at the Dutch Grand Prix. Schumacher found Lawson's first Grand Prix performance impressive, as Lawson secured the 13th position after stepping in for Ricciardo on Saturday morning due to the Australian driver's hand injury. That being said, Schumacher thinks that Lawson might be a more suitable choice for AlphaTauri rather than Red Bull. He said, "Liam Lawson celebrated his debut in Formula 1. He will be an option for AlphaTauri. Dr. Marko trusts him a lot. Some people see it a little differently. His weekend was okay. He made the most of it. Incidentally, it is a sensation that a driver from the DTM has made it into Formula 1 again. That hasn't happened for a long time." Rather than drawing from their existing driver pool, Schumacher suggests that Red Bull could potentially go for McLaren's Lando Norris as Verstappen's next teammate, saying, "I could imagine Lando Norris becoming Verstappen's new teammate sooner. The two seem to be good friends. I assume that Verstappen will ultimately decide who will be his teammate. This is nothing unusual. That was already the case with Senna. My brother also had this right. When a driver like Verstappen contributes so much to the team's success, I also think it's good that you have your back as free as possible." So, is it possible that close friends Max Verstappen and Lando Norris might eventually find themselves driving for the same Formula 1 team? The Dutchman says that they have indeed discussed this possibility in their private conversations. Norris, often thought of as the top driver on the grid who hasn't won a single race, has already been linked with a potential move to Verstappen's dominant Red Bull squad. But the problem with that is Norris is under contract with McLaren until the end of 2025. The team's impressive turnaround during the middle of the season has effectively dampened speculation about the 23-year-old considering an early departure from this agreement. Verstappen, who has gone on record to call Lando Norris his best friend on the grid, gave us a glimpse of what their conversations are like off the grid in an interview with Sky Sports, saying this about the possibility of him and Norris driving together. "We talk about it, but he's contracted to McLaren for a long time. We'll see what happens in the future. But if Max had it his way, he wouldn't be driving with Perez or Norris. Instead, he wants to race alongside somebody closer to his heart." He said, "For me personally, Dream Team, if I could choose and could bring people back, it would be with my dad. Much like his son, Jos Verstappen entered the world of Formula 1 as a young driver with a promising reputation during the mid-1990s. His initial opportunity arose at the competitive Benetton team, where he partnered with Michael Schumacher for 10 races during the 1994 season, when the team was in contention for the championship. But despite achieving podium finishes twice that season, he was transferred to the smaller Simtek team for the following year. After that, he spent the entirety of his 106 race career driving for teams in the midfield or toward the back of the grid. Max thinks that his father deserved better than that. He said, "From my dad's side, I think his career didn't go to plan, and I think it had a lot of potential. But again, he knew what went wrong, and he knew it was very important to have the right people around you from a young age, to be guided in the right way. And I think that's what he did with me. So from all that happened in his career and what went wrong, he tried to prevent me from having really. And that's why I think when I grew up and got all the way to Formula One with him by my side, it helped me a lot to prepare. He was constantly trying to make me aware of things, what could happen. I need to be ready. I need to be fit. I need to also be aware of what's going on in the paddock. You know that's a difficult world." So he prepared me in a very professional way, I think from a very young age, to be ready for all certain kind of scenarios. Dream Team talk aside, the reality of the situation is that Max is driving alongside Sergio Perez, at least for now. And despite the discouraging comments made by Helmut Marko, the Mexican driver is determined to earn the Red Bull advisor's respect once more. Perez has shared his efforts to recapture the attention-grabbing performance he showcased during the initial phases of the 2023 season. He acknowledged that certain advancements made to the RB19 at times didn't fit well with his driving style, which forced him to put in extra effort and push harder than needed. In a Sky Sports interview led by F1 strategist Bernie Collins, who Perez has worked with during his time at McLaren and Force India, the driver delved further into his adjustment to the Red Bull team over the past 2.5 seasons. He claims that this transition is an ongoing process that continues to evolve. Perez said, "There are a lot of things that are so different. How you look after tires, for example, is one of the biggest things. How you drive is completely different. You are able to do things that with a Force India you cannot do, or you cannot even think of doing." Pressed on the topic of whether he's still in the process of learning and enhancing his skills, Perez responded by saying, "Yeah, the progression is there. For a driver, it's really difficult to be adapting to the car instead of just things coming naturally. The last few races, I've been like a step or two behind, and always thinking consciously how I have to drive the car. Sometimes with how the car has been developed, it doesn't really suit me as much, so I have to work harder for it. But I think Hungary and Belgium, for example, have been good, standing on the podium. Hopefully we can keep that momentum going, because at the end of the day, we've got a great race car." When asked about the pressure he faced at the beginning of the season and how it compares to his previous rodeos, Perez said, "It was different this time obviously because, we started the year so high, so you're thinking you are a championship contender, you've won 2 races. Then, all of a sudden, you feel like, this weekend doesn't feel like it did before, so you're losing confidence because you're not fully confident with the car. In F1, if you're not fully confident with a car at 250 km per hour into a corner, then you are doubting a little bit more, and it's what really happened in those moments. It would be easy here to sit back and say, it's too hard for me, and so on, but at the end of the day, you just have to get on with it. Like I said, I just look forward to keep this momentum going with the team." What do you think? Is Sergio Perez just making excuses, or is the RB19 really too much to handle for anybody not named Max Verstappen? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell for the hottest F1 news.